Hi again, guys. Wanted to take a few minutes here and talk about our internet setup that we've had for the last 3 or so years, and then what we just upgraded to, which was the Starlink internet. So I'm going to take you around and show you what we got going here. Back in 2017, when we first started traveling, we bought this Verizon MiFi home thing. What we found out real quick was that the guy that sold it to us didn't know what he was talking about, and apparently this one had a 10 gigabyte cap on it, and then you had to start paying beyond that. So it wasn't an unlimited system. We were a little bit perturbed, I guess, and they ended up refunding our money and changing some stuff around. So we switched to just a normal Jetpack. The reason we wanted the home one was because we wanted the hardwired line so we didn't have to deal with Wi-Fi all the time for everything. I work off of a desktop the whole entire time, so it was just more convenient to do it that way. On the Jetpack, you get 15 gigabytes of high-speed unlimited internet, and then after you get to that 15 max, you switch to like 600 kilobits per second, and then it's unlimited. But at that speed, you really can't stream much. I mean, you can load web pages and stuff, but it's not a great speed. So we ended up buying a second Jetpack for a while. We used our phones as hotspots. We had done quite a few different things just to make it work. It worked, don't get me wrong, we made it work. A lot of times we just couldn't stream video, but we had enough data to work, which is what we absolutely needed to do. Fast forward about a year, we went to the Tampa RV show, and there was a Verizon booth there, and we went and talked to the people there, and they were selling a $65 a month SIM card basically to go into a Jetpack that's unlimited. So basically you're stuck behind anybody using a cell phone at high speed, which is fine. And for 95% of the places we were, it worked awesome, fantastic. We were in some places that you would never buffer or anything. There was a lot of places we would be, you would notice in the afternoons or in the evenings, or for whatever reason, if there's a lot of people driving during that time, that our speeds would decrease. But again, we learned to live with it, and we knew that in the evenings, a lot of times our speeds would just go down. We ended up having issues with batteries in Jetpacks because we always needed them to be charged, basically. So what we ended up buying, and this we still have now, so we bought this Pepwave Router. This was about a $700 item, but what this allowed us to do is put the SIM card in here, and this gives you fallback protection, I think it's called. So it's like a fail-safe. So if you have an Ethernet connection, it'll basically default to that Ethernet connection. If you were to lose that Ethernet connection, it's going to default back to the cellular connection. So it's a really nice thing, and you're able to use it. You can have Wi-Fi pass-through. There's all kinds of different things you can do with it. So the main reason I wanted it was so that we had the Ethernet connections on it. So we would use, that's how I plugged in my computer. So this thing we still use. It will probably go back to the camper soon once we get the camper back, because it's almost unnecessary at this point in the house. When we moved in, because we didn't have the Starlink yet, I actually put an external antenna on it, so there's a cable here that runs outside, so we get really good cellular connection on that. This is the Wi-Fi antenna, so this does have its own built-in Wi-Fi, and then this is the WAN port in, so that's where your Ethernet comes in from. Right now it's coming in from our Starlink modem, and then it has 2 Ethernet jacks on it. So you can plug in 2 additional things or put in a switch or whatever. So then we heard about the Starlink system, so we put in for the beta test. And we were lucky enough to be selected back in about October. So when we got the Starlink, it worked out perfectly because it coincided with when Angela and I both started working from home. So with the Starlink, what we have is this guy, which is the router. So with this, the white line is the line coming from the power brick. and then this yellow cable is going down to a switch. So don't be too mad at me. I go overboard on a lot of things. So I bought an 8-port desktop switch. So that's down here. So we're just running the auxiliary from the auxiliary port into the switch, and then we're hardwiring pretty much as we can. So our work computers are hardwired. I think I have a printer hardwired. Our Xbox upstairs is hardwired. So all those main things that we use are hardwired so that we get the best connection possible. We have noticed the Wi-Fi connection can be a little bit fluky at times, but I guess that's one of the disadvantages of it. But again, we dealt with it, and I prefer to use wired as much as possible anyway. Power brick is located over here. You just see it over here. It's just kind of tucked in, and I have it plugged into a UPS so that if we do lose power, the internet will stay up for about, I don't know, with how many watts it uses, it seems like it stays up for maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and then that goes out. So here's a look at what our installation looks like outside. It's not the greatest. It was in November when we installed this, so we just kind of screwed it down to some pallets and called it good. All right, as far as functionality goes, I've got a couple screenshots I took of a speed test here. You can see, I would say we average closer to about 100 megabits per second. I've seen some people as high as 300 megabits per second. I think you'll see it dip into the 60s and definitely into the close to 200 where I have it currently. We're eventually planning to put it on top of the roof, so we should get a little bit better signal, but we really don't have any obstructions where it is right now. As far as drops go, that's probably the biggest complaint we have, is that because we're still in beta testing, they don't have enough satellites up in space. So every so often we'll get just where it'll, we call them blips. So we use a VPN or what we call ConnectWise for work. It's basically, the ConnectWise is like streaming your screen. It's not quite the same as remote desktop, but it's a similar idea. That will break, and you'll just notice it go down for a few seconds and then it'll come back. That's our biggest issue with it right now. We hear that and we've seen that the more satellites they launch, within a day or two of those launches, typically we'll see fewer and fewer of those drops occurring. So we are very happy with that. As far as using this for camping goes, I don't think that that's going to be an option quite yet. So this antenna has to stay at our address. We cannot move it yet, but I believe that's something that they're still working on. So hopefully in another year, potentially if we go back on a longer trip or something, we could pack it up and take it with us, and we would have crazy fast internet all the time. Can't wait for that day to happen. Last question that we get quite a bit is, why do we have Starlink internet? The answer to that is basically the local internet provider said we will not put a node near enough to your house to give you internet. So we actually have fiber optic running through our property on the pole near the street, and we cannot tap into it. As far as cost goes, we told you $65 on the unlimited Jetpack. The other Jetpacks were like $15 that you basically tack on to your existing plan. And now we pay $99 a month for Starlink, but it is well worth that cost because of the amazing service we get. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Bye.